So in this document, this prayer to enter into the fiat, I felt inspired to write it in this way, and I want to explain a little bit of why it's important to have this disposition as sort of the prayer to begin every day. So I read in this book called The Life of Mary, and I don't remember exactly where it was in the book, but somewhere I read from some mystic, so it's possible that this didn't happen, but I personally believe it because I've received a lot of fruits in prayer ever since I put this simple prayer practice into practice at the start of every day. But there was a revelation given to a mystic that our Blessed Mother began at the start of every day. She would lie prostrate on the ground, just like flat out on the ground, like on her stomach, like in her little room at the rise of every day, and she would just profoundly adore the Most Holy Trinity. And it was a profound act of humility and a profound act of surrender. In particular, like, it's important that we understand what adoration really is, what it really consists of. Jesus tells Luisa in the volumes that perfect adoration is perfect union of wills, basically. And so we can go to adoration and we can say, I adore you, Jesus. I adore your most holy will for my life. But if in the other breath we are complaining about our circumstances in our everyday life, or we are resisting God's will in any way, or if we are still like addicted to things that God has asked us to get rid of, then to say that we adore him or adore his will is it's lip service, and it's not genuine, it's not real. That what our Blessed Mother would do at the start of every day was that she would sincerely give herself, sincerely place herself in her place. Like, she is the most exalted of all women. She knew who she was, though. She was nothing before God, and she would place herself in that profound act of adoration, even like with her body. And I highly recommend like doing this. Like, the posture of our prayers is important, if you're able, if it feels like good to you, to adore God in that way, like to lie prostrate on the ground in an act of profound humility, and to tell him, like, as a setting our disposition in the right way for the start of our day, and to go about our day, like it's face down to the ground. Like, I don't question you, God. Like, I am nothing, you are everything. I know nothing, you know everything. And that's what our Blessed Mother would do. And that's why she was able to be so docile to the Blessed Trinity throughout her life. It's why she was sweet and gentle, not argumentative or trying to make things work in her own way. It's why she never sinned. It's because she developed the virtue of profound humility. And it's true that she was given many, many privileges, especially as we know from the volume. She was conceived without original sin. She was infused with the gift of the divine will from the moment of her conception, and she knew like so many things about God, that like graces that we will never receive. But at the same time, we know that she still, like, she exercised those graces. Like, she prayed every day. Like, if she needs prayer, then like we definitely need prayer. Like, if she needed to take time away by herself to pray with intention, to pray with fervor, like for strength, then we definitely need to be doing that. And if our Blessed Mother began every day, like, face down on the ground, profoundly adoring God's will, and like growing actually in humility, like through that act, like we need to be doing that too, because we aren't as holy or as pure as she is. We don't have all the privileges, like, and if she needed that strength in prayer, then we definitely need it. And so that's why, I list this as like the very beginning prayer. I call it Adoration in the Name of All. Can be done at the start of the day. Highly recommend it to be done at the start of the day. If possible, like as soon as you wake up, like in your bedroom, like kneel down, prostrate, face down to the ground. Just imagine the Holy Trinity in front of you, and you don't need to say it, of course, in these exact words, but this is like the basic format of setting us up for the right disposition. In a way that Jesus teaches Luisa the disposition that is necessary in order to truly enter into the divine will, because like I said, if we don't have the disposition of heart and we're saying with our mouth, Lord, I adore you, I love you, I glorify you, I praise you, I thank you, I bless you, in all of these things, yet our hearts are like nagging, whining, complaining like throughout the day, if we can't embrace suffering with peace for the love of Jesus, then it's like those prayers are not very powerful. They're not really doing anything in us, and ultimately we're kind of deluding ourselves by just being like the Pharisees, saying these long things. I'm in the divine will. I pray these prayers. I have the greatest holiness ever. Like we actually are invited to have like the highest gift ever, so that we can have a very, very high degree of holiness, but it has to penetrate into our hearts. And if it doesn't penetrate into our hearts, then we're wasting our time. And that's what the devil wants us to do. He wants us to waste our time and get us to think that we are doing like everything for the world, and like we're the greatest saints that ever walked the face of the earth, which is very easy for him to do with what Jesus tells us in the volumes. But that's why, praying a prayer like this with our full hearts is like, pretty much giving him all the space he needs to actually dispose our hearts and get us in the right, proper position. And so I'm just going to kind of walk through this, like, come Holy Spirit, like, please bring to my mind anything in my will that is blocking me from perfect union with you, right? And so I like to do this often. I like to do this throughout the day because I want to make sure that I'm not getting in the way of his operating in my heart, in my soul, in my life. Because truly, like, if we have attachments, if we have blockages, if there's like a certain resentment or something that he wants us to go apologize to someone for, like, he says, like, leave, if you have something against your brother, like, or your brother has something against you, like, leave your sacrifice at the altar and go make things right with him, right? Like, so this is why I include this part in the prayer that's important to pray, like, every day. It's important to pray often. Bring to my mind anything that's blocking me from union with you. Anything at all. And it can be an attachment, it can be, it can be anything. And this is just giving him the opportunity to bring that up to us regularly. And we are giving him, like, the space, we're listening to him. And then, like, these prayers after, I give you permission to give me the grace to desire. Because I think ultimately the most difficult part about holiness, the most difficult part about living in the divine will is actually that we don't want to. Like, if we want to do something, if any of us really, really, really wanted to be saints, like 100% all the way, not holding anything back, then we would be. We get in our ways, like, with achieving holiness because we don't want it ultimately, and it's in varying degrees. But like, to pray this prayer every day is really important. To say, like, Jesus, give me the grace to actually desire to surrender myself to you entirely and completely. When we give him permission to change our desires in this way, to fill us with his own desires, it's like you will become unstoppable. Holiness will become so much easier because, like, think about it. If you like were forced to go to the workout place and just do workouts for no reason, like, you would not be motivated, you would be dragging your feet, you wouldn't want to be doing the thing, and it would actually be harder and heavier for you. But if you had in your mind, like, an image of, like, what you want to achieve, like, I want to win this race, I want to be an Olympic gold medalist, and, like, this is my goal, and I actually have, like, what it takes, like, I could do it, I could win a gold medal at the Olympics, and because I just got into the qualifying rounds, right? So, like, I have what it takes, and I'm gonna work hard. Like, now when you go to the gym, because you have that goal in mind, and because that's what your heart is set on, it's like what you want, like, going through the grueling process of lifting weights or doing whatever you need to do to run, it would be lighter, it would be easier, and you would do better. Like, you would push yourself more, and you would enjoy yourself more doing it. The whole thing would be so much better. Like, we have to have a purpose. We have to have our eyes on the goal, and we have to want it. If you didn't want to be a good runner, then you're not going to become one, because you're not going to have the motivation to be able to push past the difficult, to be able to say, I'm going to get up at 5 a.m. and do extra workouts before I start my day. Like, it's the same thing with prayer. Like, if we really want to be saints, if we really want to be holy, we have to do what it takes to become holy, which is grueling, it's painful. It takes time to pray. It takes time to praying even when we don't feel like it. And it takes denying ourselves. It takes fasting. It takes abstaining from certain delights, detaching ourselves from certain things. It takes restraining our tongues. It takes controlling our anger, controlling our sass, our attitudes, to not do that anymore. To be peaceful and gentle and patient with people is painful. But if we want to love Jesus, if we want to draw down the kingdom, to be his vessels on earth, to let him be a living host within us, then like those things will be easy. It was just part of the goal, like part of the everyday. Oh, we do this, we do that, we restrain our tongue at this time, and then we go and pray for an hour first thing in the morning. Like we fast on Wednesdays and Fridays, and this is just what we do. This is what we do. We're running the race with purpose. We're running the race with a plan. And so then the things that happen to us throughout the day, it's not going to cause us as much grief and turmoil, because this is just a part of becoming a saint. So it's all about the desire. We just ask him for the grace to desire it, and once he gives us that grace to desire it, then it's going to be so much easier. And that's what I found in my personal life, because I used to not want anything really to do with being a saint. Like that was a scary thing to me, but then Jesus was kind of inviting me, like, hey, do you want to make me the all-encompassing center of your life? And I said, actually, like, no, I don't really want that. That's kind of scary. I mean, a part of me wants it, but like most of me is like scared of that. But can you give me the grace to like want to make you the center of my life? And then I prayed that prayer very simply, like every day for about 6 months, and boom. Ever since, like, it was about 6 months after that period of just praying for him to change the desire so that I actually wanted that everything in my life became so much easier. And like I found my taste for God was like just naturally there. Like I wanted to pray, I wanted to do hard things, like I found joy in suffering, like the crosses in life, like for love of him. And I became super joyful, and people around me like noticed, like, why are you different? Like you're so peaceful and happy even though bad things are happening to you. And that's just my testimony that it's like so easy. Like I didn't do anything except ask him to give me the desires, like, and he will do all of that work like in us. We just have to give him the space. And so yeah, I give you permission to increase my desire for you. I give you permission to detach me from everyone and everything. Ooh, that's a tough one. And to fill me with a love for you that is so overwhelming that it spills out onto everyone around me. So it's important to understand this, what it means to be detached from everyone and everything. It doesn't mean that you just run into the woods and become a hermit and never eat anything ever again. It means that you love people in the right order. You love people and things in the right order. Like you are not driving, like your motivation behind the way that you interact with people, and the motivation behind like how you conduct your work, how you make your decisions in dealing with the things in your life. It is not motivated for selfish purposes whatsoever. Like you love people and you love things only in God, like for the purpose of God and for the purpose of loving him, and bringing him glory. Like you see God as your absolute all-encompassing everything, and it's kind of like everything else in the world is like ordered toward him, and that's just a perspective that you have. And it's, most of us don't just come out of the womb with this perspective, because we live in a fallen world in which like the world and people and things, like we need these things to fill the voids in our heart, to, because we were made for love, we were made to love God, but many times like God does not get the first place in our hearts, because our motivation is primarily the physical, tangible things in front of us. So this prayer to detach us from everyone and everything, basically it means like to get us to a place where we are content and happy with God alone, and where we don't need to use others in order to like doctor us, in order to make us be okay. Like we can be okay with God alone, and we actually long for him alone. And then it's like that love, he fills us with it so much that like we see everyone as ways to love Jesus. Like, and we want to love others for the love of Jesus. And so instead of being detached from others, it actually makes us, in being detached in the right sense of the word, we are more intimately incorporated into their lives. Like we are able to love them deeper, and we are able to be loved by them deeper, because God has become all in all for us. So that's what that means. Permission to detach us in the bad sense of the word, and to fill us with a love for you, Lord, that is so overwhelming that it spills out onto everyone around us, and ultimately draws them to love you more, Jesus. Like we can ask for that grace and he'll give it to us. In this moment, I give you permission to give me the grace to desire the cross and to love my suffering out of love for you alone. And the next part is, I give you permission to give me the grace to desire the cross and to love my suffering out of love for you alone. Now, this loving of the cross, this loving of suffering is difficult for any human to understand, really, because the truth is that it is impossible for us to love suffering on a natural level. Suffering in itself is an evil. God never intended it in the original purpose of creation, but because of the fall, Jesus came and made a way for us so that through his cross, we could be saved and sanctified, and so could all souls in the world. And so this embracing of the cross, it is not a masochistic, unnatural thing. It is embracing it out of love, embracing it for the purpose of the glory of God, embracing it for the purpose of loving souls, even our own souls, because the cross is the means. Through Jesus, through his sacrifice and through what he did, he transformed the suffering that is now the reality in our fallen world, the result of sin, but he took it and he changed it into salvific and good and sanctifying. There's no escaping it, there's no avoiding it, so it is good for us to embrace it out of love for Jesus. And that is the way that it will hurt the least amount of pain happens when you embrace the pain, right? For a higher purpose. And that's the perspective that we're asking him to give us, is this perspective to, like, not necessarily like go out of our way to like go find crosses and make sufferings for ourselves, although like things like fasting and different ascetical practices are good in order to build this muscle in us, in order to love souls, to detach ourselves, but in general it's really this attitude of to desire the crosses that he gives us, for the purpose of loving him through them. We can ask for him to fill us with the same love that he had in his heart that went to embrace the cross, that loved it. He says to Louisa that like when the cross came to him, he embraced it, and a shiver of joy ran through his most holy humanity, because he saw it in that cross. He longed and he yearned to lay himself upon that cross. He longed and he yearned for more sufferings throughout his life, not because the sufferings in themselves were good, but because they were the coins. These sufferings, he saw that they would do so much good for souls, and his love was so intense that his longing to love souls was greater than his human nature's resistance of suffering. And so that love would overpower the natural resistance that he had, even in his human nature, his perfect human nature. Jesus still had a natural resistance to suffering because he's human and it's an evil. But the love was so intense that it overcame that, and all he could feel really was this intense desire to suffer just because he loved us. And we can have that same all-encompassing desire as well. We will always resist suffering on a natural human level because it's natural and it's healthy to not like suffering for itself. But with the love of Jesus for souls, and the love that we have for Jesus to console him in his sufferings, like that love can be so intense that we don't even feel the resistance that we have to suffering anymore, because his love within us is so overwhelming. And because we see beyond the limited suffering, really, in time, like the suffering that will fade, we have the perspective that we are earning treasures for all eternity. And so there is a goodness, there is a joy in the crosses of everyday life. The sufferings that are his will for us are always for our good, and we can ask him for the grace to desire those crosses, to desire those sufferings for love of him, so that they can be easy for us. So that's an important prayer to pray at the beginning of every day. I think it's a life-changing prayer. It will help us to have that eternal perspective and to not resist the cross anymore, to embrace it and to be sanctified completely through it. Into your hands, Lord, I commend my spirit. We are now giving ourselves into his hands like a limp rag, so that he may do with us whatever he wants. And so now the next part of this prayer is like a raindrop that free falls into the ocean. I now fuse myself into the unending sea of your divine will. And I place the fusing of ourselves into the divine will after this prayer of disposition, this disposition of heart, because what we know from the volumes is that, like, in order for us to truly fuse into Jesus, to truly allow him to take over every particle of our being, like, we have to make space for him. This detachment of heart, this disposition of heart is really necessary in order for us to truly flow in the divine will. I leave behind the world of time and senses and enter into the spiritual sphere, where the eternal generation of the Son and the Holy Spirit is continuously in act. So this is just, I think, a really beautiful place to start. To start our rounds at the beginning of the day is the eternal act, which is basically the Father from all eternity outside of time. And we are able to truly enter into this when we fuse in the divine will through this gift that he's given us. We go into this place and we make it a part of our souls. We enclose this within our souls even. But the Father, the perfect being, thought of himself. And that thought, that perfect thought, generated the divine word, the Son, Jesus. And the love between the Father and the Son was so intense. It was like the Father was pouring all of his infinite love within the Son, and the Son was receiving that infinite love. And he was pouring back that infinite love back to the Father with his love. And the love between them was constantly growing. And that's what the word reciprocal means that I learned. It means like the giving and receiving, a perfect exchange of love. And within this perfect exchange of love, it's like the Father and the Son loving each other. That's what generated the Holy Spirit, right? This is what we believe as Catholics. And then the love between the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit, it was all perfect. And it was all this infinite love, exchange of love between the three of them was always growing, always increasing. And this is everything. Like, this is heaven. This is the entire purpose of creation, is this love, this reciprocal love. And it was so intense and amazing that they said, oh, we want to share this with everyone. And that's when they said, fiat lux, let there be light, and then generated this world, this time for us to live in. And really, the whole purpose of creation is for us to share in that divine life, to share in that reciprocal love of the Holy Trinity. And so with the gift of the divine will, we can truly fuse into that. We can make our souls expand within that infinite seas of love between the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. And this love, this light that they generate actually like divinizes our souls. It can purify us so quickly, like if we spend time going here. And then we can also make use of this same love, this same infinite love of the Holy Trinity, make it our own, and use it as a prayer. Use it as an infinite, huge, big prayer to say, let your kingdom come, let your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Because the ultimate purpose of our life is that souls would live in the divine will. The ultimate purpose of really the creation of the world is that all souls would live in the divine will. And that's a sorrow. It's a sorrow for the Holy Trinity that souls are not living in the divine will because of the fall of Adam. But when we fuse into God's own acts, into God's own attributes, we can make use of his infinite nature and use it as a prayer, as a powerful weapon of love, he says, in order to ask for the kingdom to come to reign in all the earth, so that, once again, this reciprocal love between the Trinity can be resting in creation, on earth as it is in heaven, within souls, within our hearts, first and foremost, and through our hearts, in the hearts of the whole human family. And that's why we're praying in this way. That's why we're praying our acts in our rounds, because Jesus told Louisa that there's a certain number of acts, a certain number of rounds, a certain number of times that we enter into God's infinite attributes, right? And use this infinite nature of God to ask for the kingdom. There I bind my will to the foot of their divine throne, never wanting to know it again. And so, since we've prayed this beginning prayer, this first paragraph, we kind of understand what it means to give God our will and to ask for his in return. It isn't just a magic formula like, yeah, I give you my will, God, please give me yours in return, I want to live in the divine will. Like, it actually means giving our entire selves, giving our entire beings. And we don't need to know everything, every detail of what it means, but the truth is that in order for us to enter, to really take possession of God's will in all its fullness, we have to truly give him our wills. And really what that looks like is like without reserve, entirely and completely, enabling him to fill us with his own infinite love, even to the extent that we embrace our crosses, right? And so now that we've kind of prayed this prayer disposing our hearts, we are more disposed to make a sincere offering of our wills. We copy Mary, our Blessed Mother. We know that from the first moment of her conception, once she saw the fall of man, she took her human will and she bound it to the foot of the divine throne. She never wanted to do her human will. She only wanted to do the divine will. And so we can mirror her, we can echo her, fuse into her same act of doing that when we do this act of binding our will to the foot of the divine throne. And now I put, if possible, lie on the ground, face down as an act of humility and surrender before the triune God, and just like linger here. In the audio that I record of me reading this prayer, like I don't really leave a whole lot of time, but it's recommended that just really stay in that place. It's no rush, and there's so many things that they want to tell you, and there's so many things you can tell them, the Trinity, through the love in your heart that he's filling you with. And the silence, there's so many things that can be spoken in silence, and there's so many things that can only be spoken in silence. And so it's important to not rush through this, like really, really chew on it. You could spend hours just binding your will to the foot of the divine throne. I profoundly adore your most holy will. And then in this moment, now that we've truly surrendered ourselves, we've truly given him permission to dispose our hearts, to be in this place, now we can adore his holy will, not only on behalf of ourselves, but on behalf of all souls of all generations, past, present, and future. So that's the next part of this prayer. I fuse myself with all souls of all generations, past, present, and future, gathering all of them into my heart. And that's the power God gives us through this gift of the divine will. And in the name of all, I believe, I adore, I hope, and I love you. And this will truly give him reparation on behalf of all souls past, present, and future, as if all souls had truly done this. We can really give him the glory and the experience as if all of these souls are loving him with his own infinite love. It's important for us to truly, truly love him, to truly give him that space in our hearts. I'm reiterating this so many times because it's really important. Because if we're going to love on behalf of all, truly, we're multiplying ourselves. When we fuse in the divine will and we fuse into all souls of all generations, we are multiplying our souls into the souls of all humans. And so Jesus looks down and he sees our hearts within all of these hearts, loving him, adoring him, praising him, glorifying him. But if we are holding back from him in any way, if we are not believing in him, not adoring him, so disagreeing and resisting his will, complaining about it, not hoping in him, not having our lives revolve around him, ultimately not loving him, not doing what he asks us to do, if we're being complacent, then he can't be repaired on behalf of all souls if we are committing those same intentional defects, if we are not truly giving him free reign. And so that's why it's so important that we give him everything, so that we can bring him the perfect exchange of love on behalf of the whole human family. But it gives him so much delight, infinite delight, beyond what we can even comprehend, that this return of creation is coming back to his throne. All of these I love yous rising up from the whole human family. And this is all of these billions and billions of I love yous, infinite divine I love yous, giving God the glory as if all souls had lived in the divine will, is going to be the powerful weapons that will call down the kingdom to reign in all the world, that will dispose all hearts alive right now to live in the divine will, so that we can have an era of peace, so that God can have his rest in creation. So yeah, I pour myself completely into the reciprocal love that is constantly flowing between the three divine persons. And yeah, that reciprocal love, that back and forth between the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, of that infinite love. We're giving him the glory as if all souls, past, present, and future, were dissolved within that love, so that he can have the company and the satisfaction of our love. I receive into my soul everything that you are, and I put like an inhale. I imagine our souls expanding to receive everything that God is, because he tells Louisa that our souls were created to contain God, and to contain all of creation, everything that God is, all of his attributes. Our souls are meant to be filled with them, and we can never completely enclose everything that God is, because he's infinite and we're finite. But we can enclose as much of him as is possible within our souls, but we can actually expand our capacity. And so when we inhale, I imagine my soul inhaling God and stretching bigger and bigger and bigger, and I ask him to fill me with everything that he is, and then I return it back to him like an exhale, like all up to his throne with redoubled love and glory. And then I do it again, and just like staying in this place of receiving everything he is and giving it back to him, receiving everything he is and giving it back to him. And you're probably not going to feel a whole lot of things, at least not all the time. He'll give us experiences every once in a while to show us that this is a reality, but the most important thing is to have faith that this is the reality. That we are truly receiving everything God is and giving it back to him on his own divine scale. And that's really the purpose of creation, a perfect exchange of love with God. So yeah, that is the prayer to enter into the fiat adoration in the name of all, recommended to be done at the start of every day. This is sort of a basic baseline day in the life of a soul living in the divine will. This kind of encompasses, as best as I understand it, like how to enter into the divine will, how to dispose ourselves, and really what the whole purpose of it is, which is to give God the glory of all creation in the name of all. And so the actual recording of me praying this whole prayer will be, you can find a link to it in the description of this video, and it's recommended that you linger in this place. And yeah, like I said, this is only like a prayer that I came up with, but so you can pray it in your own words, in your own way, but this is just sort of a baseline. If you would like to learn more about what the gift of the divine will is, there is an Intro to Divine Will playlist on this YouTube channel that goes into more detail about the things that I mentioned, this praying the rounds, this gift of the divine will, this taking of the infinite God and using it as weapons to assuage his throne. Might not make a whole lot of sense just in this video, so if you want to learn more, then check out that playlist. And I'll also link to the website for this channel, where we have other resources for what the gift of the divine will is, the most incredible thing ever. Anyway, yeah, thanks for watching. I hope you all have a wonderful day. God bless you.